Hey, what's going on, Vibe listeners? Carl here from the crew. You guys didn't think I was going to edit an episode and not have a chance to talk to you about our good friends over at Homefield, did you? Look, man, I'm here. I got the mic, I got Audacity open, I got the 80s mall music going. Let's go. Look, if you're tired of hearing about Homefield apparel, go listen to some other inferior racing podcasts because over here at VLV, we only deal with the best. And speaking of the best, I told you guys in a previous episode I'd ordered some shirts. They came in. I wore one of them out yesterday. The 4-time Jeff Gordon shirt. I love the design on it, by the way. It's still on their website. Got compliments on it. I wore it around all day. The dog park, Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, Walmart. Didn't wear it all. Lightweight, great in the Arkansas sun if you live in the South like me. Took it home, washed it, threw it back on when I got it out of the dryer just to check. Didn't even shrink. Great quality shirts, great quality prices, better ingredients. Pop up, wait a minute, wrong ad. Great quality shirts, great shipping, great website to navigate, great prices. That's Homefield for you. Go ahead, check them out, homefieldapparel.com, and use our code VLV24 at checkout for 15% off your first order. Now that we got that out the way, let's check in and see how Kianna enjoyed Darlington. We'll talk to y'all later.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is former NASCAR driver Bill Lester.
I'm NASCAR driver Natalie Decker.
NASCAR's Chief Hype Officer Mamba Smith.
And you're listening to Victory Lane.
Victory Lane.
Victory Lane Vibes. Let's go.
All right. Welcome to a special episode of Victory Lane Vibes. I am the host with the most. It's Jarrett, and I have my cohort, Kianna. I told y'all we had it cooked up. It's Kianna's episode this week. Kianna held the banner, held the flag, wore the colors. She was representing the vibes down in Darlington this weekend, the whole weekend. Saw some things, talked to some people. Yeah. I'll let you tell your story, but I'll stop it there. I'll stop it there. But I guess we can just kick it off. Like, so overall, how did you think the whole weekend went? We can just start there.
It was fun. I mean, it was action packed. Friday was crazy because of the whole storm situation. I don't think people realize like how crazy it was at the track, but yeah, it was pretty crazy. But yeah, it was great racing all weekend. Just like I said, action packed, and it was nice to have because I mean we've been having all these conversations about races not being interesting or fun or snooze fest, and that I did not feel that really at any point for any of these races. So but I do think being at the track just makes it that much better, and feeling the energy from the crowd and the drivers themselves, like it's so different from watching at home. I can't watch the races at home now. Like I feel like I need to be at the track. But yeah, it was such a cool experience, and also having media access like that makes it a huge difference too. So something different, and I hadn't done that yet, so that was really cool. But yeah, it was fun.
I feel like with us now, well, obviously, yeah, it's no secret now that we're being recognized as NASCAR media because we're getting credentials and access to things, and we're going places. So I guess from that perspective, being media, does that change your perspective or how you come into a race weekend? Or like, are you more excited because the access that you get because obviously we're NASCAR media now, or do you think from a fan perspective that they may have a little bit better scope on things, or how would you say that?
It's interesting because I mean, obviously, there aren't many Black media, groups in these spaces, so it's something different, and obviously, you're gonna see and hear some things that are a little different too. But it's cool for us because I mean, you think about it, like we've only been doing this not even a year, and how much progress we've made, in these spaces. So
Right.
it's cool to witness that. But yeah, I mean, it was a very different experience from just being a fan, in the stands because there's so much going on around you, and there's people being interviewed, and somebody's coming out of the care center, or got interviews going on in the media center. Like there's always somewhere to be. But it's cool. Like it's nice to kind of have that perspective and just see how much is actually going on behind the scenes. Um, but yeah, it was it was kind of wild because you go from just being a casual spectator to like being in the middle of the action. Um, so yeah, like Friday, I just kind of observed everything like Friday and most of Saturday, and then Sunday I was like actually running around. Um, but yeah, it was really cool to experience that. But also just being conscious of like, I know, I'm Black, I'm a Black woman. There are not many Black women in that space. Um, and so it is still kind of, I wouldn't say intimidating. It's just, it's different, and you have to really know how to just, hold your ground and stay in your space in those moments because, you're not going to see many people who look like you. And that's just, a fact. I want to see more people who look like us, especially Black women in those spaces. But yeah, I mean, I only saw a few the whole weekend. So I was very conscious of that. And that's something I think everyone else around me was pretty conscious of too. But
Right.
yeah, it was a very different experience for me. But it was fun. I mean, I will say that overall it was fun, minus, the issues that I had with some folks. But it was still something I wanted to do for a long time, and something that I know, like, I always think about my grandma when I go to races because she's really the one that I started watching races with,
Mhm.
and she herself was a journalist, and so I was just thinking about her with her little, she would have her little notepad, run around taking notes with me, but she loved that kind of stuff, and Lord, she would have loved that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just, I have to, when I do this kind of stuff, I just have to remember, I'm not going to see a lot of people who look like me, and that's okay. But I still have to, represent us and, represent, the culture in general, pretty much. Because it is, it's a big step. Like that's, we don't have a lot of Black led NASCAR media,
Right.
and that's just a fact. So that's a space that we really have tried to enter and try to be more prominent in, and I think we've done a good job of that. But yeah, I mean, it's like when you go to the track and you're there and you just kind of realize that, like, it does hit you for a little bit, like, whoa, like
Right.
there's not a lot of us here, like it's kind of daunting. But yeah, it was a fun weekend, and I think it was a good, good way to increase visibility and just awareness in
Right.
general. So that's definitely something I think for this year that we want to work on too. So
For sure. Yeah, I feel like to that point, it's always good to see, like, oh, there's another face that looks like me. There's another
yeah,
face that looks like me.
yeah,
When you do this thing, and you speak on something, there's not, no, as far as we know, we're the only ones. Given our takes from the sport from the African American perspective. So going to these things, having these experiences,
hmm
you guys have been rocking with us, and you can see how much we've grown, and we're growing probably more rapid than we originally thought, not
yeah,
being a full year into this.
right.
But like, as we, to Kiana's point, as we grow as a podcast and the media source for NASCAR, and as we're able to travel more, show up more, be more places, Lord willing and jobs willing, what I'm saying, it's part-time for us. But as
hmm
we're able to get out and do more, than us too, I feel we'll eventually have, that recognition. So we don't get checked like, oh, how you get that? Or we don't get checked like, oh, are you supposed to be here?
mm.
We I can speak on this now.
Well,
we, we had when we met Mamba at Richmond, and we gave him his shirt because obviously y'all know we did an interview. He was like, "How y'all get that? We were like, how we get what?" He was like, "What's that?" And he looked at our media pass like, "Oh, we got media credentials." He's like, "Oh, you didn't need me then?" I was like, "Well, no, we ain't know we was gonna get this Playboy." He was like, "Oh." Well, he was like, that's like all access. Like you can go more places than I can. And I work for NASCAR. And I remember like I looked at him, I was like, "What do you mean by that?"
And I didn't even see. That was crazy. I somehow did not run into him the whole weekend, and I was
He's a
actually
ghost.
looking.
He is
Yeah,
a
I was
ghost.
looking. I
That
did
man
not
don't
see him.
play. Mamba
I did
don't
not
play.
see him. Yeah.
He is. I'm here to do one job and one job only.
Mhm.
If you don't see me when you see me, I'm back on the plane and I'm in the crib.
Yep.
I'm chilling. And to that point, and I don't know, Kianna, if you want to speak on that or not, but us being black, and not being a familiar place, you ran into a situation where,
Yeah.
thankfully,
Several situations.
yeah, and there was you used your reach and got some eyebrows raised and some things happened, and I feel like you were issued several apologies because of it, but for the people, this your episode. Talk about just being black
Yeah.
in these spaces, and what we run into sometimes, even though we're just as credentialed with the same colored badge as everybody else walking
Right.
past. Just if you wanted to speak on that situation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the worst one was when I was walking up and down the grid because I was trying. Obviously, I had a bunch of people like, "Oh, can you give me a picture of so and so's car?" And I'm like, "I'm just gonna do a video. I'm gonna get every single car in the video so everyone's happy." And so I was gonna split. I split it into two videos because they had the cars kind of split up anyway. Um, and so I did like first half of the field, and then I was starting the second half, and I was almost at the end, and this guy comes running up to me, blocks my camera shot, and was about to like physically move me away from the car, and was like, "Oh, you can't be here. VIP access opens at 1:30, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Okay, I'm not VIP." And then he looked down and looked at my pass, and he was like, "Oh, sorry." And he just he's like, "Oh, I was just checking. I was just checking." Okay, but you didn't do that to anybody else that was walking up and down
Right.
the grid. And they had the same passes that I had to get through someone else to, get on there. And like, I know people can jump over the wall, whatever, but there were people just sitting on the wall, being respectful, not, breaking the rules.
Right.
And it was just really weird that I had already been out there for like 10, 15 minutes. And now all of a sudden you want to come run over and do this. Like, it was weird.
Right.
And I was just like, am I crazy or something? Like, I don't see him talking to anybody else out here about that. I was talking to a couple other media people that were out there with me because we had been seeing each other, all weekend, and so it was no big deal. And it was just really weird that he did that to me. He didn't do it to anybody else, and I was just standing there like, wow. So not only did you do that for no reason, I mean,
Right.
he did it for a reason, but you just interrupted my video. So now I gotta erase this video, go back to the beginning,
Start all over again.
film what I was about to do. And I only had like 5 minutes left before they were about to open the grid to VIP.
Right.
And I also wanted to get to the driver's meeting on time because that was starting soon after that. So I was just like, bro, really? Like, you're messing me up. Like, I got a schedule and I'm trying to like hit all my stuff when I need to. So it was just really annoying because all weekend, I mean, you get the people who just kind of look at you like, how'd you get that? And yeah, and it's just like, what is it about me that y'all are like? I get it. You're not used to seeing. It is, and it's just being in those spaces like people are not used to seeing, and I'll just say it because I know what it is.
Right.
They're not used to seeing an attractive black woman walking around with this kind of pass. And it was just funny because like who was it? Somebody said something to me that was kind of weird too. He was like, "Oh, you it was somebody at one of the, I don't know if he was near the garage, I can't remember, but he was like, "Oh, you look all done up." I think it was on like Friday, and I really wasn't because I was like sweaty and soaked from all the rainstorms and the hailstorms and sitting through all that on Friday. And and I mean, yeah, okay, I have my hair and makeup done, whatever. Who doesn't? Like, it's no different from anyone else going to the track, like I'm not going to show up looking like a dump, even though I was in a car all day and had to travel. And, I was, I always make myself presentable. That's something that's always been taught to me. And so it's, being a woman in these spaces, I know that's always going to be something that I have to deal with too. So adding being a Black woman on top of that
Exactly.
is just like layering all these, prejudices and it's really annoying. It's like, why can't I just be myself at the track and y'all just leave me alone and mind your business, And, I just get all these weird comments made to me and, just people think they're slick and it's like, I catch what they're saying. I'm just like, don't,
Don't do that.
don't do that. Just treat me like a normal person. And so, yeah, like, it gets really frustrating. And, Sunday was just, I don't even know what to say about Sunday because, I had that happen.
Yep.
I even went up to a Black official and I'm like, am I crazy? Like, why do I keep, because I think he saw what happened and he was like, okay, and I've seen him at other races. So like, I at least was familiar with him and I just kind of went up to him like, am I crazy? Like, why am I the only one? Like, no one else out here is getting questioned about their pass.
And everybody else.
And, my pass looks substantially different from the VIP passes. The VIP passes are longer and they just look totally different. And so it was very weird that I kept getting stopped like that because it was very obvious that I had a different pass from other people out there. And so, yeah, it was very strange. And I had some other, like even other media people say that they were getting stopped for like, kind of weird reasons too. But it was happening to me, like, because a few of them saw it happen. Right. Yeah, like they would check my pass. They wouldn't check somebody who was walking with me, And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, like, am I crazy? Is this really happening? And then you realize it's like, yeah, it is really happening. Like, they're just trifling, like, and it's frustrating. I don't think people understand like how much we have to go through in these spaces just to like exist. And, it just kind of gets to the point where like Saturday, I was so fed up with stuff. I was just kind of like, I'm about to leave. Like, it gets to a point where you're like, I'm tired of being questioned. I'm tired of, getting these weird slick comments from people. It's like, just treat me like a person. Like, I'm there to watch the race just like everybody else.
Right.
And I have to give a shout out. Thank God for my buddy Trenton from Front Stretch, because Lord did he save me this weekend. Because I was really just fed up, and I had another situation Saturday morning with someone just saying something really out of pocket to me and just put me in a bad mood. And I was honestly just kind of ready to go because I was so frustrated with everything else at that point. Like, I didn't need that. And so he was kind of one of the ones like, no, you gotta go to the track. Like, just, it's going to be a good day. Just, have fun. And, and I appreciated having people, just kind of jump in and be like, no, just get yourself together, go to the track. You'll be okay. So I did. I got there later than I wanted to, which was frustrating, but I did. But, it's just, people don't talk about like the mental effects of, having people in your corner versus, people who should be in your corner and are not. And even like, us being Black, like obviously Black folks in NASCAR still have a lot of things that they have to work through
oil
together.
And water.
Yeah. And so, like a lot of people around me just don't understand NASCAR. They don't understand why I like it. They don't, even though I've been watching since I was a kid, like people still just give me flack for it, which is weird. And I'm like, like, I know y'all don't get it, but you don't have to like treat me all crazy just because you don't understand it. Like, I don't do that to you. I don't do that to people who, listen to Taylor Swift all, like, okay, you like Taylor Swift. I don't. I'm a Beyonce fan. Like, right. We have different tastes. That's fine. That's what makes everything great. Like, people have different tastes. And so, that's been something really my whole life I've had to really deal with, is like people not understanding my interests because they are very unique, especially for a Black woman.
Right.
And people don't understand that. And that's okay. But like, don't treat me, like I'm a weird person just for liking something that you're not interested in,
Exactly.
So it's like you're getting that side of things, and then I'm going to the track and I'm getting racially profiled, like I was just kind of over it. And so like I said, thank God for Trenton, because I was just like, I was so out of it on Saturday, and it just felt like I was in a daze because I was like, it's like I want to be here, but it feels like no one wants me here, And that's really just frustrating and disappointing to deal with. So he just kind of he showed up and was my support system for Saturday and Sunday, and I really appreciated that. It's good to have people like that in your corner, and I really needed that because it was, being there pretty much by myself, like that's kind of scary too. Because a lot of other people there, they have like teams they work with, and just me being by myself, like I don't have anyone to back me up. So, it's a daunting task at first because I got to figure out, what I can do, where I want to go, who I want to see. But yeah, it's just, I have this like schedule in my mind of things I wanted to do. And it was like I just kept getting blocked from doing stuff because people wanted to obstruct me, and that's so frustrating, like watching everybody else do their job, no issue, and I'm getting questioned every 10 minutes and can't, just trying to take pictures or something or take a video or something, I'm getting interrupted. Like that's so it's just it really makes you want to like punch a hole in the wall because like I said, you're watching everybody else do their jobs, no issue, and I have to like jump through hoops just to take a picture of something.
Right.
And yeah, so it got really frustrating at one point. And we also had an issue with there was another, and actually he got Trenton too. That was crazy. Like, this guy came up to the media platform. It's like he made everybody leave. I mean, he was just like yelling at everybody, and I mean, it was in the middle of the race, so we can't even hear what he's saying. He was like grabbing at my pass, like almost trying to yank and be like, "No, you can't be here." And I'm like, "Yes, I can." Like we all have the same pass. Like, what are you talking about? It was weird. So he made me and another black guy leave, and I was like, well, this looks suspect. And when I turned back, I went to my car and I came back, and when I came back to the platform, like everybody was gone. Like he took like everybody off of there. And come to find out later, he just didn't understand what the pass meant. He didn't even know what the pass was. And that's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't a NASCAR official, it was a local like track official.
Well, the RMC people.
Yeah, and he didn't know he just didn't know what he was doing. And so he actually came up to me near like in the middle of stage 3 and apologized. And was like, I read it wrong. I didn't know what that was. But and I was just like,
a likely story.
Right. Cause he stopped me again when me and Jordan were like playing it, because I sent him back up there. Like, you go back up there, see if you can get up there. He got questioned again, trying to get up there. And he had to explain, like, no, like we've been up here all week and no one's had an issue. Like we're supposed to be here. And that guy, he was shooing everybody away from like the media center area, like everything. It was just so weird. But it was literally because he did not read the pass correctly. But people know, like they know he was just very aggressive with me, and it was kind of weird. Because the second time when I tried to go back up there, Trent was up there actually with LeVar Scott. And I had just met LeVar like about 20 minutes or so before that, I think. And so they were looking down, and I was like going up. I was like, oh yeah, hey. And I was going up the steps, and here he comes again with his running around the fence. And he pushed the fence back all aggressively and was like running up in my face, yelling. He's like, no. I'm like, okay, you literally just let them up there. They have the same pass.
Right.
Why are you so aggressive with me? Like, and it was one of those things. I'm like, I have to keep my cool, because I know if I lose my temper, he's going to call the cops on me and I'm going to end up on the national news. And, it's like I joke about it, but it's kind of not funny, because that's exactly how we end up getting killed, really.
Yeah.
Is from people overreacting to things, charging us with things that we haven't done, it's just it. And so that, like, those kind of moments scare me, because I don't know how this person is going to react, and I don't know what they're going to do. And there were cops, like not too far away.
Right.
So all he really had to do was make a stir, and then they would run over thinking I did something wrong, and I didn't,
Exactly.
and that could be the end for me. Like,
exactly.
And it's not an exaggeration for us in this country. Like, that's exactly how it happens. That's how it happened to my cousin. And so I'm always very conscious in those moments, and just like really anxious, because I don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And so I just had to be really stern with him. I'm like, look, you just let somebody up there with the same pass. Why are you yelling at me when I have the same one? And I'm like, I had to explain to him, like, like I'm here, I'm actually like filming stuff. I'm trying to post content. Like I'm trying to do stuff, and you keep blocking me from doing that. And it was just really weird. And so he finally just kind of gave up on it and was like, okay, like go on. And he didn't want to let me go, but he just had to, because now he's got people watching him.
Right.
and
You
how
have an
he's treating
audience.
me. Yeah, he had an audience. Thank God they were there because I'm like, if I had been by myself, I don't know what he would have done, you
Right.
know? And so it was just, yeah, it was really frustrating. And at least he apologized. Like, I appreciated that because the other guy didn't really apologize to me. But,
Hmm.
it's just all weekend you're running into these people who constantly want to question you. And, I have my past clearly displayed everywhere I go. It's not hiding anywhere. And
Right.
they're still doing that. And I know it's because they don't expect to see someone who looks like me in those spaces. Like, that's what it comes down to. They're not doing that to anybody else. They're extra aggressive with me because they assume, just looking at me from like behind or whatever, they just assume, oh, she's not supposed to be here. And I'm like, what makes you think, just looking at me, what makes you think that, oh, she's not supposed to be here?
Right.
It's not because I have an offensive shirt on or, you're looking at my skin color, you're looking at my hair, looking at whatever, and you think I'm not supposed to be here. You're not even looking at my past because then you look at my past and you realize you're wrong.
Exactly.
So that just tells me the whole story right there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really a bummer. And, I was hesitant to go to Darlington in the first place because I've heard stories from other people who, used to work in the industry or currently work in the industry. And that's always a track that's kind of come up in those conversations. Usually Darlington and Talladega are usually the ones that come up in that conversation. And so, I haven't been to Talladega yet. Honestly, I don't have plans to, because again, I just feel like it's going to be more of the same of this, but it's unfortunate because it's a wonderful track. I would love to go because I love watching the racing there, but I just don't feel I would be like welcome. And that was my, kind of hesitance with Darlington, and it turned out to be true, and that's really disappointing because I really wanted them to prove me wrong, but it just felt like, you know, I love the track, but it doesn't love me back. Like, that's kind of how it feels. Um, so yeah, it was really disappointing that, I still had to deal with all that because I was really hoping, if it just been one or two minor skirmishes, okay, they're just checking my pass, whatever. But it
Mhm.
was just, the way people get so aggressive with you when they see you and just like immediately assume you're not supposed to be there until they look down and see that you are supposed to be there. It's like, okay, so what made you think I wasn't supposed to be here, but you're not doing that to anybody else, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, it was it was an interesting weekend on that perspective.
We'll just and then we'll move on after this, but like this is
Yeah,
why we we do what we do.
right,
We appreciate y'all who listen to us, B, and help support us and promote us and all this stuff because
right.
you know we're doing this for to give the perspective from the black fan, but also with the goal and the hopes of if we become a household name, then hopefully we get treated better.
I don't know.
Hopefully be
It's
like,
just,
oh yeah, I know
you
them.
would
Oh
hope,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
my
Victory Lane
God,
vibes. Oh yeah, yeah. Come on. Like
you
I
would
don't need
hope.
red carpet, but some decency as a human being would be, appreciative. NASCAR wouldn't
It's
give us
yeah.
these credentials if they didn't know about us, hear about us, like what we do, and want more of it. That's how it works. But yeah, so besides that, let's touch on some racing.
Yeah.
From the vantage point you had, you saw a lot this
Oh my
weekend.
God.
Um, what were your takes on, I guess, the hot buttons, like the truck
Oof.
race,
Yeah,
Justin Allgaier
truck race
stumping
was
him down?
painful. Um,
Yeah, it was rough.
I was sad. Because I did get to meet Raja before the race. That was awesome. I had only been at the track for like 5 minutes, ran right into him. I was like, that's great, because that's exactly who I was looking for. And then it started raining again, and we got put on another hold, and so it was actually like perfect timing. But yeah, I got to meet him, took a picture with him, so that was cool. But yeah, I was watching the race, and oh my God, it was a good race though. It was very fun to watch. Again, it was just nice to be there, and it's Darlington. Like, of course I want to see a truck race in Darlington. Like, oh my God. It's like,
Oh yeah.
on my list of races that I've always wanted to see, I feel like the truck race would always be higher than like Cup or Xfinity, because I know I'm gonna get a show. And we did. But yeah, Raja and Dean and all that whole situation, that was just a bummer. Because y'all know I love Dean. Dean's cool. Dean's crew's cool. Love him. Um, but I was just like, dang, like this is literally worst possible scenario for me because I love Raja and I love Dean. I'm like, oh no. So I was just, I was heartbroken after that. But it was a fun race to watch. And, again, just being there, like, I think it's so much better being at the track than trying to watch on TV, like, just miles and miles better. But yeah, that was that was quite a race. But it was cool that it was a night race, and we got to get some really good racing in. It wasn't hot outside. That was nice. So we just out there chilling. And I actually thought the crowd turnout was pretty good for a truck race, even after all that weather. Like people stuck it out and they were just chilling, waiting for the the hold to be lifted and track dry. So that was cool. Saw a big double rainbow. Everybody was like, that was hilarious when the rainbow came out. Everybody was like cheering, which is it was really funny. It's like one of those, like, I felt like when you're on the airplane and the airplane lands and everybody cheers. It was kind of like that. Like it was just so corny, but it was so great. It was beautiful. But yeah, it was a good day, even with all the weather chaos. Like, I think NASCAR handled it well and just waited it out. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, when you got lights, don't go home yet.
Use it. Yeah.
Use them lights.
Yeah.
And then Xfinity.
Oh yeah.
Allgaier's win. How was that to witness?
I love Justin Allgaier. That was great. I was like with the day that I had Saturday, I was trying so hard to stick it out, and I did, but Lord, it was rough. But again, I'm glad I stayed there because before the race, I got to see oh gosh, I gotta go through my list again because I met everybody Saturday. Met Chris Rice, president of Colleague. I met Sheldon Creed. And then in the garage area, I actually met our current Cup Series champion, Mr. Ryan Blaney.
Mr. Blaney.
Sir Ryan Blaney of the championship, my favorite. That was awesome. I love him too, because I felt bad because I walked up just like I was just taking a picture of his car, and I noticed that there was somebody moving in the car. I was like, oh my God, wait, he's still in the car. Because everybody else had pretty much left their cars. They were already back, chilling in their haulers, like, they were gone because the practice and qualifying was over. And I got to see Tyler after he won the pole, so that was cool. So I saw him, saw Bubba, tried to hit all my crew, before practice and qualifying. But yeah, like after that, I went over there and like I noticed Ryan was still in the car. I was like, well, maybe I should just sit here and wait. And I did. And so he got out, he was talking to his team for a few minutes, and then he came to walk over. This crowd had just like, massive crowd near his car because everybody was figuring it out. Like, oh, Ryan's still over here. Yeah. Ryan Blaney's over here. And so I was just standing there and I was like, well, I guess maybe I can try and get a picture, because I was gonna get him to sign my champ hat, but people were, they have like 3-4 die casts they wanted to sign it, so I didn't want to be that person. I was just like, no, I'm gonna go for a picture because that's what I've wanted. So he walked like directly over to me, and I know those people were mad. I was like I'm so glad I can't blush, because I was just like, oh God, he just skipped all those people who walked over to me. And some of the people, I know they had been standing there for a minute. And he walked right up to me and was like, hey, how you doing? I was like, good. And I'm usually not a shy person, but that moment out, and people know, if you know me, you know how long I've been trying to meet Ryan. It's like every time I've tried to meet him, something weird happens. So this was finally the moment I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna finally get my picture. He's like the last one on my list that I needed a picture with. And yeah, he's super nice, so sweet. And he took the picture and he was like, yeah, have a good day. I was like, uh-huh. And I mean, with the morning that I had, I was trying not to cry because I was already so just like stressed out and emotional. And I was like, that's the one thing that I needed that day that just kind of like brought me back to reality. So that was nice. But yeah, it was just like, it just happened perfectly. And it made me glad that I went to the track, because I mean, if I didn't, I wouldn't have had that happen. So
exactly.
Yeah, it was just it was wild how that happened. But yeah, it was, just seeing all the drivers on the grid, and SVG's walking down with Dinger, and I waved at them. That was cool. But yeah, it was a very good race, and I'm obviously happy for I love Justin Allgaier. Like, he's awesome, and he's so nice too. I still like always see him in passing. I still haven't had a chance to like talk to him and say hi yet. So he's on my list too.
We working on that.
Yeah, because I love him. He's just, and he's so well respected in the garage. So like people like that, I really appreciate, because of course with Xfinity, like you've got all these young guys and you can tell they really like look up to him and respect him. So it's always cool when he wins, because everybody just seems to celebrate it. Like it's not a, oh darn, so-and-so won again, blah, blah, blah. Like people are genuinely happy when he wins because he's such a genuine person.
Right.
So yeah, that was really cool.
And then, well, you were able to watch the race on Sunday.
Oh my God.
Talk about Sunday, because everybody knows that we give 2311 a special segment for our podcast. So how was it what was like the crowd's reaction when that whole thing happened between Tyler and Chris Buescher?
Oh my God, that was, I mean, it just watching on the platform, like every time they would come by us, I mean, everybody was just zoomed in on Tyler because they were just like, oh, what's he gonna do? Because I mean, for a while he was flying, he was just gone, and it was, I would lose him sometimes because he would come by so far ahead of second place, and I was like, good God, that boy's flying. And I was watching his pit box was directly below us. So I could see all his pit stops, and I was like timing it in my head. I'm like, dang, that was a good stop. And so, everything was just going so great. And then that happened. I was just like, oh my God. And I could see, when he kind of bumped, I was like, he probably just cut his tire. And like, soon as I said that, he was like slowing down, and I was like, oh my God. And I mean, the groan that came from the crowd was so crazy, because everybody was just like, oh yeah, he's going to win, because he, like I said, he was flying all day. And the reaction when he, slowed down and pretty much almost to a stop, it was like, oh my God, like we're really not going to win this race now. Like it was such a bummer. But I'm glad he took responsibility for it. I know there's been a lot of conversation with that, but people need to get over themselves. Like, drivers are going to mess up. When Bubba's messed up, I've been very vocal about that too, because I don't want him to mess up, and I know he knows better when that does happen. And Tyler is the same way. Like he knows what he did, and he owned up to it. I can't ask for more than that. Like it's gonna happen when you're in those situations, and I feel like people forget this. Like that's such a high pressure situation. You are gonna do some things that you're probably not gonna be very proud of. Like it's gonna happen when you get that competitive mindset. Like that's what happens. And so yeah, I mean, yeah, he messed up, whatever, but he owned up to it. I know Chris got a little spicy with him, but like think of the month that Chris has had. Like I don't blame him for getting spicy with him either. Like I'd have done the same thing. But yeah, it was just it was a bummer, because I in my mind, like I was like, okay, if either Tyler or Chris will win, I'm fine with that, because I mean, obviously with what happened to Chris, like I wanted him to get a win because he's been so close and it just doesn't happen. But yeah, that was a bummer to watch. But yeah, the groan that kind of came from the crowd, like I wish I had recorded that, but it was just like, it was probably too loud to really hear over the cars. But like you could hear people were like, oh no, like come on. Like we were getting such good racing out of that. But happy for Brad, like, to have that long of a streak broken, that's huge. So I knew a lot of people were pulling for him. Obviously Bob predicted it, so he's been pretty on fire with his his predictions. He's been on it. Yeah. We did have a funny we were trying to get to the tweet up on Sunday morning. This is hilarious. And there's, a pedestrian tunnel from the infield area pretty much near the media center. And that's where they used to get the people like who had the pre-race access. They get, go through that tunnel to get there. Mm-hmm. So we were going to use that to get through the tunnel to go to the tweet up. So it was like me and some other media folks, Bob, we were all walking to the tunnel, and we walked to the end of the tunnel and realized that the gate is locked.
Raggy.
Yeah. And so we're just like, oh God. So like, I'm tweeting the track like, yo, can somebody come open this? And apparently it was open earlier that morning and somebody locked it back up. And so they didn't have anyone staffing it, I guess, yet. And so they locked it back up, and we're like, oh my God, we have to get out. And there's really no other way to get out unless you go all the way to the other end of the infield to get out that way. And I mean, that's a long walk, and it's
Right.
completely opposite direction of where we needed to go for the tweet up. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like 10:15, 10:20. So like we're running out of time. Then Ross Chastain walks up with his people. He needs to get out because he's supposed to be in the fan zone for something. I'm like, this is crazy. So they figured out how to slide through. I don't know how they did that. I was like, I'm not skinny enough to do that, so I wasn't gonna try it. But it was absolutely hilarious because like Ross and everybody else was like trying to figure out how to break us out of there. But then he just like walked away and left us. I was like, can you go find us some help?
Help, please, please help me, please.
Save us, Ross, please. But somebody eventually like at 10:26 came and unlocked the gate for us. But it was just so hilarious because we were like, really, you got all these media people like locked up in the tunnel. Like we looked like we were just like in jail or something.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
but
crazy.
I hadn't met Ross yet, so that was our first time meeting. So shout out to Ross, I guess. It's like, all right. But yeah, Sunday was a cool day. Aside from the race, like I was doing all the pre-race stuff, and again, walking up and down the grid before everybody got there, so I was able to get like really clear shots of the cars, which is beautiful because the cars were beautiful.
Right.
Even the non-throwbacks, like I just feel like everybody had really clean, crisp cars this week. Like they looked amazing, and everyone was saying that. Like they were like, even the non-throwbacks look good, and they did. But got to meet some cool people still. Like I said, I met LeVar, so that was really cool because I wanted to meet him for a while. So he was hanging out on the media platform with us for a little bit, so that was cool. Got to meet. Oh man, I was in the driver's meeting and somebody walked up beside me and just said hi, and I was I just instinctively turned to say hi, and then I realized it's Jeff Gordon.
Oh wow.
I'm just like, oh, and I know my face probably looked crazy in that moment because I wasn't expecting that. He just walked up and I was like, oh, hi. And I was like, oh, wow. So that was really cool because I hadn't met him yet. He's my favorite driver pretty much from childhood. So that was awesome. But, just being in the room with every Cup Series driver is pretty wild. That was, for me, that was just a big moment because I was like, wow, like I'm really standing here. Like that's, and I know I stand out because I'm, again, only like 2 or 3 other Black women in the room. But it was, it was an honor and it was a blessing because I'm just like, how long have I waited to be in that type of space? Like it was really cool. Yeah, Jeff kind of like jump scared me. And I was like, oh my God. But yeah, it was just cool watching the drivers walk in. Like, Tyler waved at me. Bubba was happy to see me. And I got to talk to who else did I talk to? Oh yeah, I talked to Steve from 2311. That was awesome. President of 2311, if you're not aware. Mr. Lawletta, love him. And he's so cool. And I know he's seen my tweets because I'm very vocal about things, but I appreciate how he, interacts with the fans, and he really does, try to listen to our feedback on things. And, so he pretty much knew who I was before I really introduced myself. And that was crazy. But it was nice to finally see him in person. So, we had a good little chat, and get to see him next week at the Airspeed opening. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, it was a really cool day. Met a lot of really cool people and, old friends too. So, saw some people there that I knew. So that was nice. But yeah, it was just, it was a crazy day with the crazy ending. But, it turned out even with everything that happened, like it was still a really fun day. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's what I'm most looking forward to as we grow this space that we're in, we grow our following, we grow our listeners, is we're also gaining camaraderie with the other media companies. Shout out Front Stretch.
Yep.
We had a great conversation with them when we were at Richmond. Glad to see it was reciprocated again at Darlington.
Oh yeah.
Shout out Taylor Kitchen. We met her when we were at Richmond. So as we're gaining media friends in this frenzy too, because we working on some stuff behind the scenes for y'all. Y'all just gonna have to listen out. I'm not.
And also shout out to Seth Eggert too from Kicking the Tires.
Seth.
He's always awesome. Seth with all the numbers, my boy.
All the analytics, all the data.
Anytime you need, that's why I was telling him, I'm like, look, anytime I see someone who needs some data, I'm sending them to you because I know he has it. And if he doesn't, he will find a way to get it. So
Right.
yeah, he's awesome with that. So yeah, shout out to him. We actually had a good conversation too. So he interviewed me for an article he's working on, really about some of the topics that, you know, ironically were happening to me at the track, just about like diversity, visibility. So I'll definitely share that article when it comes out because yeah, we had a good chat about that. But you know, he's again someone else who has seen, you know, that kind of stuff firsthand. And so it's good to at least have people, you know, in our corner who understand like what we're trying to do. And they also understand like the importance of the visibility, you know, at the tracks, but also on the teams, on the crews. Like there's just so many things that we have to be conscious of that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like what we're, you know, really going through, both as fans, as people, you know, getting involved in the sport. Like there's just so many things, extra things that we have to take into consideration when we're at a track that other people don't. So I think it's important to highlight that, but also important to, you know, make sure that we tell those stories. And, you know, that was kind of what I said with him was, you know, we did this because we wanted to highlight the people who were not getting highlighted.
Exactly.
And, you know, not just Black folks, you know, we're going across the board. We're going, you know, women in the sport and, you know, all nationalities represented. Like we want to make sure that the stories that haven't historically been told in the sport are getting told. So it's really cool to, you know, have that happen and, you know, have people recognize what we're trying to do. I think that's really, really nice.
Absolutely. It's and I guess we can wrap up on this topic. You know, with when we compared everything else, I feel like in NASCAR to the other major sports, like when we talk about charters and like the profit sharing and all that stuff, you know, rarely do we speak about, you know, media. Had we been covering NBA or the NFL or probably soccer too at this point, you know, Kianna would have had the experience that
and I mean,
you know,
I've
she
covered
did.
some of that stuff before.
And it's something, you know, that that's part of our fire and our motivation to do what we do and keep bringing you the great content that you guys know and love from our perspective, not necessarily to shed light on, you know what I'm saying? There's still some acts and some trials and tribulations going on for like 60 years ago. Shout out Will Scott. We're gonna have to up the blick this weekend. But just showing that, you know, that we're here, we have a voice, our voices get listened to, and we want to grow with the sport. So like I said, it just, again, we appreciate everybody who listens to us and shares our thoughts and opinions, just because the more and more we grow, the better opportunity we have to share our experiences. And hopefully, you know, for the better, they will become more positive instead of, you know, this particular one that had a, you know, a lot of claw mark and scratch marks on it, you know,
and just with the history too, like again, going back to Wendell Scott, I mean, he was kept from racing it, you know, like, and that's the kind of stuff that's in my mind when this happens, because I'm like, my God, like how far removed are we from that? But it's really not that far at all when you think about it. I mean, that's when, you know, it's just, it's again, it's frustrating because it's like we should have made more progress since then, and we have, you know, we got a black man in the Cup Series, that's awesome, and you know, we got Raja in trucks, and you know, he's doing great, but you know, it's just, it feels like we should have made more progress than that. And like, we shouldn't still have to deal with these conversations in 2024. So yeah, like I want people to do better. I want these conversations to happen more often. And I need people to like stop shying away from the conversation, because it's not going to get fixed if we just ignore it. Like that's not how this stuff gets fixed. Like we're going to have the hard conversations with, you know, both NASCAR and the tracks individually, I think. I think really what needs to happen is some sort of roundtable with that, you know, with like fan representation, I would say crew representation, media representation. Like you need to bring everyone to the table and just kind of hash it out, because I feel like that's really why this stuff still happens, because people are just ignoring that it happens, and we really just need to get away from that, because if the sport is going to grow, they're going to have to get through all of these conversations first. Like it's not going to grow until we do. So yeah, I would love to see that happen within NASCAR within the next like year or so, because I do feel like it needs to happen pretty soon.
Absolutely.
So, yep.
Well, with that, ladies and germs, this is Kianna's episode of Victory Vibes.
See y'all at airspeed.
See airspeed, like, comment, subscribe. We got to talk about that. I got a very confusing email. I don't know if I'm coming or going or what. I asked Blair, and she's like, "I don't know." And I was like, "What do you mean you don't know?" But we'll figure that part out. But yeah, looking forward to see you guys at airspeed.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see that shop.
Yes.
Really
Hey.
Oh,
it's not a shop.
Airspeed. I'm really excited to see Airspeed. My bad, Dennis. Don't.
You got to answer to Michael.
That's going to be an event for sure. Shameless plug. Just make sure if you're a fan of 2311, be sure you're on their mailer. They do a lot of inside stuff, literally. With this being one of them. So we'll hopefully be able to do a story on that for you guys, or put out an episode, an Airspeed episode, because I'm hoping that most of us can get down to that for that next week. So catch y'all on the flippy flip. We out.